This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. This thing called stress it's part of our lives. It can help us in some regards, pilot us forward, but at the same time, it can also create a challenge for us. And today we're going to look at different types of stress, inner stress, external forces within stress. And we started last time we got together with her, kind of going down that road. We're going to pick up from that point with Shari Edgell, who helps people navigate this all the time and make that transformation. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Very well. And this, if I remember correctly, this all began when we talked about shame. And if I recall, either I heard it or you confirmed it, that shame is the lowest vibration there is. I always thought it was sadness, things like that, but shame is even lower in terms of energetic vibration. You feel that way?
I would agree with that because if you imagine, things like sadness often come out of, something very painful has happened, but a shame-based identity, kind of a hallmark belief in that is that I second guess myself. I don't believe in my ability to cope. So you can imagine what kind of underpinnings that will cause to make sadness even worse.
Seriously so. Like if you're sitting with shame and then sadness presents, yeah, I can picture that would be even more challenging and impactful. Now, what we're talking about here are the internal sources of stress, where shame shows up and things like that. What are some of the other internal ones?
Another one, we talked about this a little bit last time, is worry. And if you define that as this, anticipation that something bad is going to happen, you can only imagine that's going to cause stress, because if I'm creating in my own mind's eye something bad happening and I anticipate it, then I'm going to be braced for that. And of course, that's going to cause internal stress.
Would you also agree with the notion that we create our reality? So once we start thinking about this potential issue that's creating stress, it's almost as if you're throwing fuel into the fire, and that's where it's going to go. You're asking for it. You're asking for it to grow, that whatever that challenge is.
Yes, yes. And if we look at stress as something that's going to cause strain or tension or ultimately take away what I think almost every human being is looking for, which is that sense of well-being, then you can have all kinds of factors tie into that. So, when you look at a list of stressful events in life, most of us are going to think of things like death or divorce or
Moving. They say that's like one of the top 5 stressors in life, right?
right, exactly. Or, starting a new job, those kinds of things. But there are also things on that list that we would anticipate to not be stressful, things like weddings and vacations. Like you were talking about with moving, maybe there's a thrill that I just bought a new house I absolutely love, but with that will come a lot of stress.
Isn't it unfortunate that this thing called stress can take away the joy? I got a brand new house. I love it. It's great. We've been searching for like 2 years. I got to move though, and all the things involved in the moving company. Then I got to get utilities hooked up. Then there's closing on the house. I got to close on a house I have now before I buy that. Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
There's stress. How do you plow through that CRAP and let the joy come through?
Right. Well, it's interesting because because I'll tell you, probably 95% of the time, worry walks into my office. And one of the things that I say is that worry is incredibly creative. It can come up with almost anything negative to anticipate. So I decided to do just a study, a professional study on the word worry. And I got about 20 professional articles that tied in one other element. And I went, oh my gosh, this is huge. No, if we don't factor this particular thing in, we're not going to get rid of worry. And so, like some of the phrases that come along, I'm purposely not telling you what it is. I sort of lead up to this anticipation. But, concepts like my mind can't be relaxed if I don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Mm.
Or things like unexpected events really upset me. Or there's kind of two different frames of mind. One is if I'm not certain what to do, I get paralyzed, and some people will do that. Other people, when there is uncertainty, what happens is that they go into hyperdrive and busyness, things like, researching or cleaning or doing whatever. So anyway, I decided to really study on this other concept and began to build a whole worksheets and these things that help people begin to realize the reality of it. So we'll start from I love worksheets. So if you can imagine in your own mind's eye a box at the bottom of a page that says stress, and there's going to be minor, there's going to be major. And it's probably easy for us to connect that we're going to worry, right? What could possibly go wrong in these stressful events, whether that's my own internal or that's some external thing. So what I began to, and then, so thoughts lead to emotions guide behaviors. So my thought process is worry, it's going to cause anxiety. So this concept that I began to study and then built in between worry and stressful events and the worry is called the intolerance of uncertainty. I can't stand not knowing what's going to happen.
Mm. It's so interesting how this can change for all of us in many different directions. I have a friend, she deals with anxiety and she's aware of it, been dealing with it for years. And it presents in different ways. But one of the ways it presents is when things get quiet. She can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Typically has to take his Xanax.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. Like it's just I don't know if she gets in her head or whatever it might be. And it always turns out fine, but she never knows what she's going to feel, in those situations. So she's, I guess, proactive in that taking a med because she's afraid, of where it's going to go. But that's one side of it. Then you have the other side where, people thrive on stress. It works for them. Yeah, I don't know how long it can work for you though. and I guess we should say here, Shari, we all got stress. We all have anxiety. That's normal. It right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean sometimes those kinds of responses to the calm, and we've talked about default settings, right? If I am accustomed to my familiarity is that things have to be in chaos and all of a sudden things calm down, my brain does not then know what to do with that. And so it brings up that feeling, or I'm not distracted and those anxious thoughts become a very, very apparent that I wouldn't be noticing
Yeah. It's
if it were.
amazing how it's different for everyone. How do you know that stress or anxiety is getting the most of you?
Well, for some people, it is they become totally absorbed, right? And they're trying to, because we're going to now look at worry of being this way to try and control the situation by trying to make the uncertain certain, right? So some people will go that route. Other people, overwhelmed in the stress, shut down.
Mm. Is it when you get to the point where it's crippling you? And at that point, obviously, we were at a tipping point in terms of that stress and anxiety. Or is it you look at it as it's controlling my life in some way? And if it is, then it's too much and I need to do something about it.
Right. Well, the beauty of looking at this intolerance of uncertainty and building in my addition to that, like maybe I'm going through something stressful in my life on a maybe a little bit lower level, and then I have shame. I don't believe in my ability to cope. I second
Mm.
guess myself. Then I tack on worry, where somehow I think if I anticipate these bad things happening, I'll be prepared. But in my own insides, I'm creating bad. Then you have now bumped that stress level way up by your own doing.
I have to tell you, I never saw it in this way, Sherry.
Hmm.
In what you just said, and we started talking about shame and how it's the lowest vibration, and it's very impactful. I didn't see it that way in terms of somebody dealing with stress and anxiety, and then feeling that I can't get a grip on it, so that just sucked them down even further into the shame funnel, if you will.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
It's interesting because this is a concept they've been studying for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. So all kinds of researchers have looked at it. But when they compiled what some of the problems were coming out of the intolerance of uncertainty, therefore, I'm worrying, I'm creating anxiety. I also throw in this element of being shame-based. They found number one, well, not number one in terms of the level, but one of the things they found was that it gave a person a false sense of control. If I worry about this and come up with a solution, then somehow I'm in control. But the truth is, when you look statistically at a worrier and all the things they're worrying about, very few of those things ever happen.
Oh yeah. I'm a big proponent of that notion right there. For me, that woke me up. And there's that acronym: false evidence appearing real,
Yeah.
fear.
Mhm.
Which that's where anxiety and stress can come from. You're worrying about something in the future. I don't know about you, but I'm not a clairvoyant. I'm not psychic. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 seconds from right now with certainty. Um, we're worrying about things that, and just what you said, they always study it, they do polls on it. Typically rides about 90 something percent, low 90s, of things that we worry about that never take place,
Right.
wasting time. And as I think back, even over the last year, of the things that I worried about, that why did you even worry about that? Well, I don't want to say what were you thinking, because it's normal, but that stuff doesn't. We're wasting our time and literally wasting our energy worrying about that stuff. How do we get a grip on that? What's
Ooh,
what's
that's another podcast.
mm, yeah.
Because here's what I find to be true. Until we see, I think a lot of, well, some people are aware they're worrying, they're aware they're anxious, but this sort of little culprit that we're not as aware of, called the intolerance of uncertainty, we need to see how that manifests in our life, how we are allowing that to create problems for us. So, not only does it give me a false sense of control, one of the weird things that happens is that people who can't handle uncertainty would rather blame themselves and think they're going to feel better because if it's my fault, then I can change and next time it won't happen. But we don't have that much control.
Okay, so you're saying claiming claiming it so that you think you can control it, but you're really not.
Yeah.
And you're shaming yourself essentially.
Oh, absolutely. Shame
Oof,
ties in that a lot.
oof.
Or
You know,
another interesting thing they found in the research was that people who could not handle the unknown or this intolerance of uncertainty would rather decide that the outcome was going to be negative than to leave it uncertain.
say that one more time.
So people would rather the people with intolerance of uncertainty, which I'm telling you, I mean, at least the ones walking in my office, it's rare. that that isn't a concept for them. They would rather decide that the outcome's going to be negative than to just leave it uncertain and write it out.
Ow.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
Why would you want to? I'm not judging anybody, but why would you want to do that? And I probably did that back in the day until I started figuring this stuff out.
Hmm.
I guess we want evidence. We want to know, things exist. So that thing that's floating out there that you have some worry about, it's not tangible. So now we can make it tangible by claiming connection to it. Wow, that's pretty heavy, you know?
Isn't it? Isn't it? And the interesting thing is we are very much geared as human beings to want happiness, to want joy, to want this sense of well-being. And I don't remember which Brene Brown book it is because she just has a fantastic array of different things she's written. But she was citing this study a woman was doing on the words happiness and joy.
Mm,
Not Brene Brown, she's citing someone else. And when she looked at the word happiness, it had to do more with things like, I got a new car, or I'm going on vacation, or, some sort of temporary positive event in their life. And then she was looking at joy, which had this depth that had to do with more sort of the richness of well-being and kind of more of a constant and internal rather than relying on external things for happiness. So she also decided to look at what the opposite of the word joy was. And what do you suppose most people would say?
the opposite of joy. Um, Sadness?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was fear.
Wow. So again, another negative. Um,
Yeah.
wow. Wait, would you say, Sherry, would you say that fear is the baseline of everything? Everything that challenges us, it's fear. It comes back to fear.
Yeah, but we have to distinguish, and that's what we're talking about in the last podcast and this one, how much of that fear is real, like a tiger's chasing me, or there's slick roads, or,
Right.
you know, God forbid someone holding a gun in front of me. Those are real components of fear, but if I'm creating another part of that in worry, shame, creating my own anxiety, then I'm just putting things in the mix that totally derail my ability to experience the here and now and enjoying that.
Talking about fear, and I've been repeating this quite often ever since I heard it. I don't know if I heard it from you, and I don't know if I shared it with you. Um, but there's only two fears that we're born with: fear of falling, fear of loud noises.
Mm,
The rest of them we learned. They didn't even exist. And when I say we learned them, that's how we interpreted them. Doesn't mean it was a real fear. You know?
right,
But the
right.
other ones are inbred, for I guess various reasons. Back in the beginning of time, you hear a loud noise, probably not good. Even if it's thunder, might want to take some cover again. For your safety. And falling, you fall. Let's say cave person times, you're climbing up to the top of the mountain to get some prey, and you got to be careful. If you fall, that could be the end. The rest is learned, not even real, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, the tiger's usually not chasing us on any given day.
No,
But
no.
let's tie
But if you
in. Go ahead.
but if you hear a loud noise, that might be the tiger.
Right. Well, yes, yes. Let's use your example of the thunder, right? And a loud storm happening. When you look at a child is more likely to be afraid of that, but they also don't know the source. They don't have the capacity to understand,
Yes.
oh, yes, there is a storm outside. I'm likely to be safe. It's uncertain for that child. And so that intolerance of uncertainty concept can even be there for a little one who
Yeah.
is like,
Hmm.
I don't know what that is. And Yet an adult can say, well, we're in the house, we're safe. Yes, it's a storm, but we don't have to be afraid of it.
Well, when I grew up, my mom was a little overprotective, so that thunder, it was get off the phone, get away from a window. There's a storm coming.
Yeah, right. It's prep. It's prep for something that could happen.
Yeah,
But even again, tie in shame. I second guess myself. I don't believe in my ability to cope. Now I'm going to take those same circumstances and really stir up a, negative experience for myself because without the shame, I'm likely to make the right decisions and do what's best.
I see shame in a whole different way
Hmm.
now that we've talked.
Hmm. Hmm.
Initially, I'm looking at it as maybe the way you were brought up, and you have shame, or maybe you've done some things and you have shame from those. I don't think of it this other way. You could have that fear of lightning and thunder, and you are that person that hides from the window, won't even be on a phone. Back then it was landlines. Kind of get it, but at the same time, what are the chances of lightning hitting and whatever. But you could feel shame for yourself that you're afraid that way, of all of that stuff. Like a storm comes, I freak out. I don't want to freak out, but I freak out. And there's an element of shame there. Maybe it's a small one, but it's still there. And you don't even realize that it's there. And that's just one example. There's so many more. I mean, how about the person that's got a fear of getting on a plane? Yeah,
Right.
understand it. Closed quarters, you feel out of control, 30,000 feet up, you're in a tin can, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's bad enough. But there's shame because you're the last person on the plane and you're not enjoying the trip. And you're saying prayers as a prayer. All of that. There's shame there. There's shame there in everything. I never saw it that way.
Well, and tie in worry, right? And the concept of the intolerance of uncertainty. If I'm going to start worrying about what could possibly go wrong on that plane
Yeah.
and then decide some bad outcome, because I'd rather decide a bad outcome than to leave it uncertain, I have now just made my life awful.
Yeah. Fortunately, through counseling, therapy, talking about this, using methods that are tried and true, you can move past a lot of this, and even just believe me, I've been there. I get it, about the fear thing. And there's people like you that can coach us through it. How do we connect with you, Shari?
You can email me at itc.shari.edgell@gmail.com. And remind me next time to talk about, because you have to start looking at the intolerance of uncertainty and how it comes. What am I worrying about? What's something uncertain I don't think I can handle? What have I thought?
Love
And
that. I'm putting a pin in that, and we're going to pick up from that point. So impactful, so important. And I know we maybe digressed and turned the car in a couple of different ways today, but I think a realization for a lot of us, what's going on in our minds, and the shame thing is bigger than I ever thought, and more real than I ever thought for all of us, not just a few of us. I've looked at it as like, some people have shame. We all have shame.
yeah.
I never even thought that.
Mm.
In little doses, sometimes bigger doses, but it's all there. Thank you for today. Really, really appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.